Welcome to the Retirement Wealth Podcast. Today, we're diving into a topic that's on a lot of people's minds. Is buying property in retirement a good idea?
Yeah, that's a big one, Emily. For many, the idea of owning a home or even an investment property can seem really appealing as they plan for their retirement years.
Exactly. And it's not just about having that perfect retirement getaway. It also raises questions about finances, maintenance, and, the kind of lifestyle you want to lead.
Right. We'll explore the pros and cons of property ownership in retirement, how it can fit into your overall retirement plan, and some important considerations to keep in mind.
Plus, we'll talk about the potential impact on your cash flow and how to make sure you're not tying up too much of your resources in real estate.
And, of course, we'll touch on some alternative options, because there's more than one way to secure your financial future.
Definitely. So whether you're thinking about downsizing, relocating, or even investing in rental properties, this episode is for you.
Let's get into it.
So David, when it comes to buying property in retirement, what are some of the first things folks should consider?
So, Emily, the question of whether buying property in retirement has really taken on new meaning, especially given everything that's happening in the economy right now.
Absolutely, David. I think a lot of people are feeling the pressure from rising inflation. It's not just about the cost of living increasing, but how that impacts everything from daily expenses to long-term savings.
Right. And for many retirees or those close to retirement, they're looking for ways to protect their purchasing power. Real estate can be a way to hedge against inflation, and property values tend to rise over time, right?
Exactly. Plus, renting can feel like just throwing money away, especially when you think about how quickly rents can go up. But I've also heard stories from listeners who are worried about the volatility in the stock market. They're concerned about their retirement savings fluctuating.
That's a big one. Market volatility can be really unsettling. For instance, I spoke with a couple recently who had their retirement savings heavily invested in stocks, and they watched their portfolio drop significantly in the last downturn. That uncertainty can make buying a home seem like a safer, more stable investment.
For sure. And, there's also the tax efficiency aspect to consider. Homeownership can provide some tax benefits, like the ability to deduct mortgage interest, which can be a nice perk for retirees on a fixed income.
Absolutely. Plus, when you think about Social Security changes, there's a lot of chatter about potential adjustments to benefits as the fund faces pressures. Having a stable asset like a home can provide some peace of mind, just in case Social Security doesn't cover all your expenses.
Right. And let's not forget about healthcare costs, which keep rising. A home can sometimes offer a way to downsize later, freeing up cash for those unexpected medical expenses.
Exactly. I remember one client who bought a smaller home in a community with good healthcare access. They wanted to ensure that they had the resources they needed as they aged, and that decision boosted their confidence about managing future healthcare costs.
That's a smart move. It's about finding that balance between what you want and what you need. And then there's the emotional side of financial security.
Oh, for sure. Homeownership can provide a sense of stability and security that many people crave in retirement. It's not just about the financial aspect. It's about feeling safe and settled.
And many retirees have a strong desire to leave a legacy. Owning property can be a tangible way to pass something down to children or grandchildren. It can create a sense of continuity for the family, right?
Yeah, I had another client who bought a vacation home with the idea that it would become a family gathering place, creating memories for future generations. It's more than just an investment. It's about family and tradition.
That's beautiful. But it's also important to weigh the responsibilities that come with home ownership, maintenance costs, property taxes, and all that.
Absolutely. You don't want to be caught off guard. I've seen retirees struggle with those ongoing costs, especially if they didn't budget for them. It's crucial to plan for what owning a home will look like in practice.
And with the current economic trends, like rising interest rates, it's important to consider how that affects mortgage options.
Yes, interest rates have been fluctuating, and that can impact how much home you can afford. Plus, locking in a lower rate can be a big advantage. But it's also essential to evaluate whether now is the right time for you personally, based on your financial situation.
That makes sense. It really boils down to understanding your own retirement timeline, right? What your needs and goals are at this stage of life.
Exactly. And even if buying property seems appealing, it might not be the best fit for everyone. For some, continuing to rent or exploring other investment options might align better with their financial plans.
So what are some core strategies that people should consider when thinking about property in retirement?
Well, first, I think it's essential to assess your current financial situation, like your savings, income sources, and expenses. Make sure you have a clear picture of where you stand.
That's a great starting point. And then, I guess looking into the local real estate market is crucial too.
Absolutely. Understanding market conditions can help you make an informed decision. You want to know if it's a buyer's or seller's market, and how that affects home prices.
And we can't forget about personal preferences. What kind of lifestyle do you envision in retirement?
Right. Do you want to be in a bustling community, or do you prefer a quiet, rural setting? Your lifestyle preferences should guide your decision on where to buy.
Plus, it's important to consider long-term plans. Are you thinking about aging in place or moving closer to family? Those decisions can impact your property choices.
Well said, Emily. And lastly, don't forget to factor in the emotional aspects. How will this decision affect your sense of security and happiness in retirement?
That's such a good point. It's not just about numbers. It's about how you feel about your future.
Exactly. We'll dive deeper into these strategies in the next section, so let's help our listeners explore their options more thoroughly. So Emily, let's dive into some core strategies for buying property in retirement. The first thing that comes to mind is, well, the impact on your overall financial plan.
Right, because it's not just about the property itself, but how it fits into your whole retirement strategy.
Exactly. You know, one rule of thumb I often share with clients is the 4% rule, which suggests that in retirement, you can withdraw 4% of your savings each year without running out of money.
That's a solid guideline. But if someone's planning to invest in real estate, how does that affect their withdrawals?
Great question. If you're buying a property, you should consider how that investment influences your liquidity. Real estate can be less liquid than stocks or bonds, you know. If you're tying up a significant portion of your retirement funds in property, you might need to adjust that 4% withdrawal rate.
So it's about finding that balance, right? If you've got a rental property, for example, that could provide additional income, which might allow for a different withdrawal strategy.
Exactly. Rental income can be a game changer. It might even allow you to stick closer to that 4% rule as long as the property is generating consistent cash flow.
And let's not forget about taxes. Real estate can offer some tax advantages, right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, property owners can deduct mortgage interest, property taxes, and depreciation. And if you sell a property, you can exclude up to $250,000 of capital gains from taxes, or $500,000 for married couples, if it's your primary residence. That's pretty significant.
Wow, so real estate can really fit into a broader tax strategy. But what about retirement accounts? How do those come into play?
Well, you'll want to max out your tax-advantaged accounts first, like a 401k or an IRA. These accounts grow tax-deferred, which can be a huge benefit. And if you're 50 or older, there are catch-up contributions that let you save even more.
So it's wise to focus on those accounts before diving into real estate?
Generally, yes. Think of it this way. If you have a balanced portfolio, say a 70-30th mix of stocks and bonds, you might want to keep that intact before allocating a chunk to real estate.
Right, and that brings us to diversification. It's not just about having multiple assets, but also about how those assets perform together.
Absolutely. If your entire retirement plan is heavily invested in real estate, you're exposing yourself to market risk. What if property values drop?
That's a good point. So, keeping a diversified portfolio can help mitigate that risk?
Exactly. And you might also consider using a withdrawal strategy, like the bucket strategy.
I love that approach. Can you explain how that works?
Sure. The bucket strategy involves dividing your assets into buckets for different time horizons. The first bucket is for your immediate needs, say cash and short-term bonds, which you can tap into for the first few years of retirement.
And then what about the second and third buckets?
The second bucket could be for medium-term needs, perhaps focusing on income-generating investments like dividend-paying stocks or real estate. And the third bucket is for long-term growth, typically stocks that you won't touch for at least a decade.
So having a mix like that allows you to weather market fluctuations while still meeting your needs?
Exactly. It's a great way to ensure that you're not selling investments at a loss during a downturn.
And it's interesting because with real estate, you might not be able to adjust your bucket as quickly as you could with stocks.
Right, real estate is more hands-on. If you need to sell a property quickly, you might not get the best price.
So how do you make sure real estate fits into this strategy?
Well, it's crucial to evaluate how much you're willing to invest in property versus other assets. And you should also consider your lifestyle and comfort level with managing property.
That's key. Some people love the idea of being landlords, while others might find the upkeep stressful.
Absolutely. Plus, don't forget about the costs associated with buying property, like closing costs, maintenance, and property management fees.
Right. And those can really add up.
They can. So make sure you have a clear understanding of your total costs and consider whether you have the time and energy to manage a property, or if you'd prefer a real estate investment trust or REIT as a more hands-off option.
That's a great alternative. So if someone decides to go for a REIT, how does that fit into their overall strategy?
REITs can provide exposure to real estate without the need to manage physical property. They typically pay dividends, which can serve as income in retirement.
And since they're traded like stocks, they also offer more liquidity.
Exactly. It's a way to diversify your portfolio while still enjoying some of the benefits of real estate.
But as with anything, there are pitfalls to watch out for, right?
Oh, definitely. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of buying property is always a good investment, but that's not necessarily true for everyone.
So what are some common pitfalls people should be aware of when considering real estate in retirement?
Well, first, not accounting for all the costs associated with property ownership can lead to surprises. And second, underestimating the time and effort required to manage a property can cause a lot of stress.
That's a solid point, and I think the emotional aspect of real estate can't be overlooked either.
Absolutely. It's one thing to buy a home you love, but if it's not fitting into your financial strategy, it could lead to issues down the line.
So really, it all comes back to having a solid plan, right?
Exactly, Emily. It's about making informed decisions that align with your overall retirement goals.
And I think that's a perfect note to transition into discussing those pitfalls in more detail.
Let's do it. So, one of the common pitfalls we see when people are buying property in retirement is the sequence of returns risk.
Right, that's a big one. Can you explain what that means for listeners who might not be familiar?
Sure. So, sequence of returns risk refers to the order in which your investment returns occur. If you experience negative returns in the early years of retirement, it can really impact your portfolio's longevity, especially if you're withdrawing from it to cover expenses.
That makes sense. It's like if you had a bad start in a race, it can affect your performance throughout, right?
Exactly. And I've seen retirees who bought properties at the peak of the market, only to face downturns shortly after. They had to dip into their retirement funds to cover costs, which only exacerbated the situation.
Can you share a real example of that?
Sure. I had a client. Let's call him Tom. He was so excited about a vacation home in Florida. He bought it right when the market was peaking. But then, shortly after, the market took a dive. He found himself needing to sell it at a loss, and he had to withdraw more from his retirement accounts to make ends meet.
That must have been really stressful for him. So what could Tom have done differently?
Well, ideally, he should have looked at his overall financial picture first. He could have assessed whether he could comfortably handle the cash flow needs of owning a property, considering market fluctuations. A thorough analysis of his income sources, expenses, and investment strategy would have helped.
That's really insightful. I think another thing people often overlook is taxes when it comes to withdrawals.
Absolutely. Many retirees forget to factor in taxes on their withdrawals. If you're pulling money from tax-deferred accounts, you might be hit with a hefty tax bill.
Right, and that can really eat into your overall retirement savings.
Exactly. I remember another client. Let's call her Sarah. She started withdrawing from her IRA without thinking about the tax implications. She ended up in a higher tax bracket than she expected, which reduced her net income significantly.
Wow, that's frustrating. So, what would be a better approach for someone like Sarah?
A better approach would be to create a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy. This means considering the order in which you take money from different accounts, like taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free accounts.
Makes sense. And what about healthcare costs? I feel like that's something that can catch people off guard.
Yes, healthcare expenses can be a huge surprise for many retirees. Just when you think you've planned for everything, unexpected medical costs can arise.
And with people living longer, it just adds to that uncertainty, right?
Exactly. I had a couple, let's say John and Mary, who thought they had their expenses all figured out. They budgeted for their regular expenses but didn't account for long-term care. When Mary fell ill, their savings took a significant hit, and they weren't prepared for that.
That sounds tough. So how can retirees better prepare for those unexpected healthcare expenses?
One way is to start planning early for long-term care. Consider options like long-term care insurance or setting aside a dedicated fund for medical expenses. It's about having a proactive approach rather than a reactive one.
Definitely. And what about asset allocation? I imagine that can also lead to mistakes.
Yes, asset allocation is crucial, yet many retirees underestimate its importance. They might become overly conservative as they age, which can hinder growth potential.
So they could be missing out on gains that could help them in the long term?
Exactly. I had a client, let's call him Frank, who shifted all his investments into bonds as soon as he retired. He was so focused on preserving capital that he didn't consider inflation. Over time, his purchasing power diminished significantly.
That's a tough lesson to learn.
It is. The key is to strike a balance between growth and safety, adjusting your portfolio based on your risk tolerance and time horizon.
And what about Social Security? I've heard that claiming too early can be a mistake too.
That's a common one. Claiming Social Security benefits too early can result in reduced monthly payments.
Right, it's like a long-term decision with short-term implications, isn't it?
Exactly. I had a couple who claimed at 62, thinking they needed the income right away. But they didn't realize that delaying benefits could have given them a much larger monthly payment later on.
So what should people consider before claiming Social Security?
They should evaluate their overall financial situation, health, and if they're still working. It's often better to wait if you can afford to, as the benefits increase significantly for each year you delay.
That's great advice. It seems like being informed and proactive can really help avoid these pitfalls.
Absolutely. And one of the best ways to spot red flags early is to routinely review your financial plan. Regular check-ins can help ensure you're on track and make necessary adjustments before it's too late.
So what are some key steps listeners can take to recover or avoid these pitfalls?
First, develop a comprehensive retirement plan that addresses all aspects, like income sources, expenses, taxes, healthcare, and asset allocation.
And it sounds like working with a financial advisor could really help too.
Yes, a good advisor can provide personalized strategies and help you navigate the complexities of retirement planning.
So it's about being proactive, staying informed, and asking for help when needed.
Exactly. It's your retirement, and you deserve to enjoy it without unnecessary stress.
Well said, David.
Thanks, Emily.
Let's dive into the next steps for our listeners, shall we?
So, let's dive into some practical steps that our listeners can take right now. I think the first thing is to really assess your current situation, right?
Absolutely. And a great way to start is by reviewing your portfolio. Maybe set aside some time each quarter to do this.
Yeah, that's a good habit to get into. You can use tools from places like Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab. They all have retirement calculators that can help you visualize your financial future.
Right. It's like having a roadmap. If you're thinking about buying property, you can run some retirement projections to see how that fits into your overall plan.
Exactly. And don't forget about the Social Security Administration's website. SSA.gov has a ton of resources for understanding your benefits and planning around them.
That's a great point. Knowing your potential Social Security benefits can really influence your decisions, especially when it comes to timing and what kind of property you might want to invest in.
And if you're looking for something more interactive, there are some financial planning apps out there. They can help you track your expenses and savings, which is crucial when you're considering a big purchase, like a property.
Yeah, I love those apps. It makes it easier to stay on top of your finances. You know, just to see where you stand at any given moment.
And then there's tax software. Tools like TurboTax can help you navigate the tax implications of buying property in retirement.
Oh, that's so important. You definitely want to be aware of how property taxes and capital gains taxes could affect your overall financial picture.
And on the educational side, I'd recommend looking into some books or podcasts focused on retirement planning. For example, the Retirement Answer Book by Harold Avensky is a solid read.
I haven't read that one, but I'll have to check it out. There are also podcasts like The Retirement Show that dive deep into these topics. Really helpful for understanding different strategies.
For sure. And, starting small can really make a difference. If you haven't already, maybe try running your own retirement projections. Just seeing those numbers can spark some motivation.
Yes, and it's never too late to improve your plan. Even if you've already retired, there are still adjustments you can make that can have a positive impact.
Absolutely. And let's not overlook the importance of aligning your investments with your retirement goals. Regularly reviewing your asset allocation can keep you on track.
Definitely. And if you find that your risk tolerance has changed, it might be time to adjust your strategy. It's all about being proactive.
Right. And speaking of being proactive, think about setting up a meeting with a financial advisor. They can provide personalized advice and help you navigate the complexities of buying property in retirement.
That's a great suggestion. Having that expert guidance can really ease your mind, especially when making a big decision like this.
And don't forget about networking. Talking to other retirees or those who have invested in property can give you insights you might not find in books or online.
What a great idea. Hearing real-life experiences can be so enlightening. Plus, it might open up opportunities you hadn't even considered.
Exactly. And all of these steps, from reviewing your portfolio to seeking advice, they can empower you to take control of your retirement journey.
So true. And by integrating these tools and habits, you're not just planning. You're creating a future that aligns with your goals.
With these tools in your pocket, you're ready to strengthen your retirement plan. Let's recap what we've covered today. Well, Emily, as we wrap up our discussion on buying property in retirement, I think we really hit on some crucial points that our listeners should take to heart.
Absolutely, David. The first takeaway was definitely understanding your financial situation. Knowing how much you can afford and what your budget looks like is so important.
Right. And then we talked about location, like considering whether to buy in an area that matches your lifestyle and future plans. It's not just about the house. It's about the community, too.
Yes. And we can't forget the importance of having a plan for maintenance costs. Owning property comes with responsibilities, right? So budgeting for those unexpected repairs is key.
That's a great point. And let's not overlook the potential for rental income, especially if you have the right property. It can be a nice supplement to your retirement income.
For sure. It's like turning your property into a source of cash flow, which can be really beneficial.
And lastly, we touched on the emotional aspects of home ownership, how it can provide stability and a sense of belonging in retirement. That's something that can't be quantified in numbers.
Exactly. So as our listeners think about building and protecting their retirement wealth, I hope they feel empowered to make informed decisions about property ownership.
Definitely. It's all about finding what aligns with your goals and values.
And speaking of empowerment, if you found value in today's episode, we'd love it if you could like, subscribe, and comment below with your biggest takeaway or any questions you might have.
And don't forget to share this episode with someone who's planning for or already in retirement. Your insights could really help them.
Yes. And next time, we'll dive into something super important. How Medicare Parts A, B, C, and D work. That's going to be a valuable conversation.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Bye for now.